Hello and welcome back to this mini series where I'm walking you through my 4-part framework to hopefully help you burn the burnout for good. Today we're going to be focusing on the first part of the framework, and this is the foundational aspect of the framework, right? So this underpins everything else, and once we get this, everything else feels easier and it's also far more effective. Not only that, but it is also one of the quickest and easiest to integrate into everyday life. So at the end of this video, I'm going to walk you through a little 5 to 10 minute exercise that you can do every single day if you want to help you feel less overwhelmed and more in control. Okay, so the first part of the burn framework is be aware. And before you think I'm just going to start running off a long list of signs and symptoms, I'm not really talking about being aware of what burnout is or what it looks like. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not important, and I will do many other videos on different signs and symptoms and all of that kind of stuff. But actually, when we're talking about the burn framework and be aware within that, we're talking about becoming really self-aware, really understanding, how I feel, what's on my plate, what stresses me out, what's going on in everyday life, what can I do to clear some of that stress, and when do I need to take action? Now, the way I like to think about this is imagining that we were all born with a plate. And as we go through life, our plates change, they get bigger or smaller, perhaps they pick up some cracks or chips along the way. No two people have the same plate, and we don't have the same plate throughout our lives either. As an example, when I was 18 years old, I just lost my mum, and I could picture my plate as this really fragile kind of bone china, lots of cracks, lots of chips. And if anyone were to put anything on that plate, there is a very good chance that it was just going to crumble in my hands. Fast forward today, and I definitely have a stronger plate. I have patched over quite a lot of the cracks and the chips, but there is also one very large thing in the middle of my plate that gives me less capacity, and that is my daughter. So it's really important that we understand that no two plates are the same, but also that nobody's plate is better or worse than anyone else. They are all just different. They all have different capacities and different strengths throughout our entire lives. Now, for the first part of the activity, and you don't need to do this every day, this is just for you to get a kind of image in your mind, I would like you to picture your plate. And you can draw or paint it if you want to. You can just draw a pencil circle of its roundabout size, or you can just visualize it. Just imagine what it looks like in your mind, how big it is, what it's made out of. Does it have any cracks or chips? Does it feel strong? Does it feel fragile? You can even picture what color or pattern it has on it. So draw out your plate, picture it in your mind, and then we're going to need a pen and paper and a timer for 5 minutes. Because the next part of the exercise is we're simply going to brain dump everything that is currently on that plate. By this, I mean anything that is currently stressing you out. By focusing on this for just 5 minutes, we're picking the top things. So the things that first come to mind, the things that are really taking up our plate and our mind right now. If you have drawn a pencil or pen plate and you don't mind scribbling over it, you can even write this out onto your plate. Whatever you fancy, this is your exercise, so make it work for you. But for now, pause this video, set the timer for 5 minutes, get it all out of your head onto paper, and I'll see you again in a minute. So hopefully you've spent the last 5 minutes brain dumping everything out of your head onto paper, and it's given you a good idea of what is currently on your plate. Now, actually putting pen to paper is so good for our brains because a lot of this stuff is just whirling around our head at any given moment, and so writing it out can really help reduce the overwhelm and give us some clarity. But you might also be looking at this thinking, oh my goodness, there's just so much on my plate, I don't even know where to begin. So I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do now to try and clear some space on your plate. The first one is to look through your list and decide, is there anything on here that is completely out of my control? Now, out of your control means that no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to change the outcome. So, for example, it could be the news. We don't have control of what goes on in the world, and therefore we cannot change the outcome. It is out of our control. It could be the fact that prices are rising. We don't have control over the economy. We cannot control the fact that prices are rising, and therefore that is also out of our control. It might be another person. It might be how another person feels about you. We cannot control how someone else feels about us. And so that also has to come off the plate. And I know these are hard. I know that these are things that we wish we could get control over, but we can't. And so they don't deserve the space on our plate. Now, I will do a whole video on what's in and out of our control and how to dig into this a bit more. But for now, if there is anything that you can see straight off the bat on your list that is out of your control, I want you to push it off your plate. The next thing is anything that just isn't needed anymore. So this could be an old belief. It could be something that we're telling ourselves, an anxiety, and we're going to dig into all of these in the unlearn part of the framework. But if you notice anything on your list that just isn't serving you, you just don't need, I want you to just push it off the plate for now. I know that we're going to do more work on this, and so whilst it might make its way back onto the plate tomorrow or next week or whatever, just for now, clear it off the plate, cross it off the list. And the final way to try and clear some space on our plate is to start taking back control. So I want you to have a look at your list, and I want you to pick one thing that is within your control, just one, not three, not the whole plate, just one thing that is within your control, so you can take actions to directly change the outcome and what happens. One thing that is in your control that you can work on over the next few days. So it could be a work project. It could be decluttering. It could be having a difficult conversation with someone. It could be absolutely anything that is on your plate, that is within your control, that has been stressing you out. So you're going to pick this one thing. You're going to write it at the top of a piece of paper. And then underneath that, I want you to just list every single step that it's going to take to get there. Even if it's a really small thing, even if it's, I need to text that person back because I've been putting it off and it's stressing me out. What do you need to do to get there? You need to find your phone. You need to open up WhatsApp. You need to read their message again. You need to put together your own message, right? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter how small these steps are or how silly you feel writing them down. What we're trying to do is get some control of things that are on our plate. And sometimes the best way to do that, particularly when we're overwhelmed, particularly when our plates are feeling heavy and we're, on the verge or even in the middle of burnout, the easiest way to do this is to break it down into the smallest possible steps. And that means when everything feels hard, when everything feels overwhelming, we can look at one tiny little step and say, can I make that happen next? And once you've got that step done, can I move on to the next step or am I done? I'm done today, that's okay. We'll have a look at it again tomorrow. So pick one thing, write it at the top of a piece of paper, break it down into the tiniest few steps and work on these steps over the next few days. And then you can say, I've cleared some space on my plate, what's next? Now, a quick recap of how you can do this exercise every day, because I appreciate the first time we do it, it's going to feel quite big, it's going to feel quite different. We don't need to draw a plate every single day. But the quickest way to be able to integrate this into every day is to spend 5 minutes brain dumping anything that's stressing you out. Spend a minute or two crossing anything off the list that you just can't get control over or that isn't needed anymore. And then pick one thing that you can focus on, that you do have control over, that you can break down into tiny steps to focus on for the next, it might even be a few hours. You might make a few of these lists a day. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're giving yourself some direction, you're turning them into tiny steps, and you're focusing on the things that you can control so you can free up some more space on your plate. If you do this exercise every few days, once a week, I promise you will start to feel more in control of the overwhelm. You'll build self-trust because you're ticking things off the list, you're pushing things off your plate, and you will build more self-awareness so you will understand going forward, what is it that stresses me out? How can I clear space? What's in my control? What's out of my control? What do I need to let go of? Think of it like a muscle that you're training every single time you sit down, you write down your what's on my plate list, and you start clearing space. I really hope that you've found this entire thing useful and it's given you a strong foundation before we move on to the next part of the framework, which is unlearn. Also, before you go, please do let me know in the comments what your plate looks like, because I am genuinely interested to hear what everyone has to say. And I'll see you again in the next video. Take care.